Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patty, the voice of Myself Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Venziel. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast.
Welcome back to the Myself Wellness Podcast. We have a solo episode today with the home team. What's going on, guys? How are we feeling?
Feeling amazing.
Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to touch on that today. We're going to talk about the FDA just passed
shot down
MDMA
being able to actually be utilized in a clinical setting, it was going to be put through where, people were going to be able to be prescribed MDMA for PTSD, and everybody thought that it was actually going to go through in August, and it got outvoted 9-1 by this board. So, there's a distinct possibility that it could make it through, perhaps because they don't have to take the board's decision, but I don't think it's probably going to happen.
And then we're going to talk more about the things to be wary of in this psychedelic revolution that I think we're going through, where it seems like more and more mainstream conversations, products are coming out with psilocybin, different recreational psychedelics that are kind of coming onto the market, and what to be wary of. Because at the end of the day, you guys are professionals at what you guys do, and a lot of people kind of play in the world of psychedelics and they find themselves, in worse off positions than they were previously. So I want to talk about that, but I'd say to kick it off, I think one of the conversations I wanted to start with for both of you guys today, you guys have seen many people come through your facilities with a range of different things. Some people are coming through for life elevation, but more often than not, people are coming through with mental health struggles, physical health struggles. I'd be interested, what do you guys see the balance of men when they come in, obviously in light of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, versus women?
It's definitely all at different ends of the spectrum. A lot of our clients do come with PTSD. And a lot of I don't even know how to answer this.
What's the range? Like, what do you?
I think a lot of people struggle with the same things that happened to them in their past. There is a lot of women that we see with sexual trauma, but there's also a lot of men that we see with sexual trauma.
Really?
Yeah.
From when they were kids.
Really?
Yeah. It's really sad.
It's actually it's really kind of like Christina is upset, of course, we're all upset by it, but she's just like, this is really disturbing.
It is really disturbing.
Actually abused when they were younger.
It's not just women, it's men too. It's so many people that we see. We probably treat, I'd say about 60 to 70% of our people that we see through our doors have suffered from some sort of sexual trauma.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's scary.
It's scary. And it's terrifying having a small child and then their brother or their brother's friend or their babysitter, the person next door that was watching them. It's people that you think you can trust, and it's so sad. It is so sad to see.
Like leaving our son with anybody but her mother, just because it's nerve-wracking after all the stuff we see.
The stories that we hear are just devastating.
So that's why I think it's interesting getting your guys' perspective on it. I think there's a lot of conversations being had with mental health. I think there's a range of that, at least from my perspective. You can see a lot of people using that as a cop-out. How many different... If you looked at the amount of people that are taking quote-unquote mental health days or just these different things, that you have a conversation of people that believe that is not good, that people are kind of milking it, I guess is what you could say. But what you guys deal with is the real shit. You guys see the real people that are coming in with real struggles. When you look at that and you talk to them about their habits and what they're doing in their day to day, do you see any common threads, especially with the people that are dealing with, trauma and PTSD?
So like, listen, from a man's aspect, and that's what I want to talk about actually right now. It's funny, and I love the synchronicity of how I see things, and it makes me want to talk about things. I was watching some Instagram reels this morning before I came, and I saw Wes Watson talking. And basically, like, it was about like men and how we have this role as being a provider, okay? And that's what we're expected to do. But it's not even just about being the provider. It's about like all of the things that we do because we feel that pressure to be that person. Like, it's like, hey, listen, like I have to go to work and I got to grind out all day and I got to help people and I got to be of service. And then I've got to be a good father. And then I've got to be good to my girl. And then on top of that, I got to make sure I go to the gym and work. And like, listen, man, like I keep myself together pretty well, but I struggle through my days sometimes, not from a mental health perspective, as it's just like I feel like I'm about to die. I'm so tired, and I got to keep on pushing myself through because I'm the man and I got to be tough and I can't show those kind of emotions or act like a wuss because like the thing is that and listen, and I'm not trying to be weird saying this, but like your girl doesn't care, man. Like, listen, like women don't care about that aspect. It's like they don't want to hear you whine and they don't want to hear about how tired you are. And like,
because we're tired too.
100%. And I'm not saying that they're not, but like men keep all of this stuff deep inside where it's like, I just got to keep going and be a juggernaut.
And it's not, I relate to that so much because it's not even just the conversation of like I come to my fiance a lot and I'll have a moment of like, wow, the world feels like it's just, it almost feels sometimes it's insurmountable, the amount of effort. And like, it's really easy, especially in this day and age, to lose hope on occasion, even in microseconds of like, man, I just put in 14 hours today, put my head down on the pillow, woke up, still got problems, still got stuff that I have to push through. And really, again, it's like you're saying, you can't really sit there and I'll catch myself when I'm bitching and moaning and I'm like, oh my gosh. And like, it's not the fact that we don't think that you guys care, but in the reality, we know that by us having these conversations and by us even bringing those to light, it's not fixing the situation.
Well, that and it's showing a sign of weakness. Okay. And so, and listen, like, and Christina's been incredibly supportive. I mean, like, listen, like she took the leap of faith with me and she, listen, when Christina and I first got together, I didn't even have my driver's license back yet. So she was like picking me up for our dates and stuff like that. Okay. And so like, she's awesome. But the fact is that the majority of women out there want a high worth man. And they don't care about any of the trials or tribulations and struggles that man went through to get there. And they don't want to hear about it either. They just want the finished result, And like, that's a lot of pressure for guys, man. And then listen, and in a world of social media and Instagram, and, you see all these guys driving the Ferraris and the mansions and the boats and all of this kind of stuff. It's like, am I a high worth man if I can't provide those kind of things? And so it's like, I don't know. In a way, I think it's a positive thing because it makes you never satisfied with being, chasing after your dreams and trying to better yourself because you always know that you can achieve more. But at the same time, also, in a world of Kardashians, it's like you have a lot of women that expect a lot and they're not going to be satisfied with a guy that's just going out there and busting his ass and doing all of these things unless he can provide that kind of lifestyle. And that doesn't mean that all of the guys that are out there that are working 40 hours a week and hitting their job really hard and going to the gym and doing all of those things aren't worthy of having that kind of relationship or getting the right kind of woman. But the fact is that in today's society, if you're not making six figures or whatever, and you're not being able to provide those kind of things for your girl, a lot of women will think that you're a bum.
I mean, that was one of my biggest fears was the thing that you just talked about with the expectations of men, the expectation of the Lambo, like social media has us it all screwed up. It has it so screwed up. I was just writing this in my journal this morning. Last year in our business was what I like to call a very front-facing year. Traveling all over the place, posting all this content about where we are and what we're doing and all this stuff. And this year has been actually a harder year. It's been more growth, but it's this growth underneath the water type of growth where it's like you couldn't really show people, hey, look at all this progress we made, because and you guys get it being business owners. It's like you're doing stuff that maybe will rear its head in a year. Maybe it'll show in a few years after that. But it's like all these things that you get no instant gratification on. And you're going through long days, day after day, and it's all work below the surface. I think men get really caught up in the other aspect of this. How can I show people how much I'm performing and what I'm doing? And a lot of people, they have to do this so that they can attract a lady in their life and stuff like that. And that's a sad reality.
Listen, I see a lot of this stuff as tacky, man. Like, and that's actually my belief system, but it doesn't mean that I don't have to feed into it still. Because in order to actually maneuver through the world and level up and things like that, it's like Carlton was on the show that one day and he's like, listen, man, he's like, I went to a job interview to try to get the job and I showed up in a crappy car and I didn't get the job. And it's like, so it's like, these are tools at the end of the day. But if I'm out here creating my own personal brand and I can't show you that I've accomplished things without showing you monetary status and I've got a nice car and look at my house and all that kind of thing, like me personally, I think that's tacky, but it's also a tactic that you have to use in order for people to see that you're successful in their eyes and respect you.
It's like a double-edged sword, though, because then you get the evil eye from everybody else that envies you, and it's a hard balance. And I've really found myself struggling within that balance because, like, I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable because I don't want people to perceive me as somebody that I'm not. But like here we are putting all of this out there now, and it is when you guys follow me around with the camera, it makes me really, really uncomfortable.
So like we'll
I
be
don't like it.
we'll be on vacation, or like we don't really
We don't
go on
really take a
vacation much,
vacation.
but like let's say we like go to Miami for the weekend and we stay at a hotel for a couple of days or whatever.
We never post anything.
We don't post anything, man. And she's like, it's like, she's like, I wish I could post some of this stuff, but I just don't want to because people are gonna give us the evil eye.
Yeah.
And it's weird though because
We have a comfortable life, but we're not there yet. We're not balling out like that by any means.
Yeah.
And people hit us up for money all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
And so like, see, the thing is that, listen, like, it's hard because we do as much as we can for people and we give people treatments and stuff like that or whatever. But like people see what we're accomplishing with the company and see how like much notoriety or recognition we're getting for all of that. And they think that spills over into all of the rest of our lives at the moment, where it's just like, listen, man, like I've got that old hustler's mentality, okay? And I brought that from my previous life where it's like I flip and I keep flipping and I keep flipping. Listen, I'm not trying to promote selling substances or whatever or illegal narcotics, but like Damon Dash had this thing where he was talking about it one day and he's like, listen, man, I've got that hustler's mentality. It's like, you sit there and you keep flipping and then it's like you don't have the money. You keep reinvesting your money into yourself. It's like, I keep flipping ounces until I can get a key. And then all of a sudden I got the key, but now I want 100 keys. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, you see all of the great stuff that's going around or whatever, but it's not like it's
you don't see the behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's not in my pocket. It's being flipped back into this empire that we're creating.
You don't see the bank account.
Yeah. and then at the end of the day too, it's like you don't, everybody's like, oh, it must be nice. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, you have no idea what our like, it's like, because like we are just grinding constantly. I mean, listen, man, we don't pick our son up from school until like
6 o'clock.
5:45 or 6 o'clock
Yeah.
at night, a lot of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. And so it's like, we start early, we don't stop. And then after my day is over, when I get done at like almost 6 o'clock at night, then I'm going to the gym. And then I go to the gym and I work out and I make it home in time to like enough to, throw some ground turkey on and eat that for dinner. And then I sit there and I meditate and I feed myself some positive content and I spend time with my son. And like, by the time we get home, Christina's so exhausted, she usually just goes and hops in bed and lays down and chills out. But it's like, we never stop.
Yeah.
We never, ever, ever stop. So it's like, it looks glamorous from the outside. And I'm sure one day it'll be super glamorous, but it's not yet.
That's the fallacy. I saw a reel the other day where it was talking about the misnomer of being an entrepreneur. And there's this idea that when you step into the circle of entrepreneurship, that you're going to make boatloads of money right out of the gate. It's all success. It's all flashy cars. It's all flashy nonsense. And he was like, it's just not true. Because being in the position of an owner and being somebody that has employees and being somebody that has a facility and being somebody that has clients, they are first.
Mm-hmm. You're the first one to skip your pay that week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's been so many times that I've had to stare down the barrel of the bullet, getting to the end of a week, being like, we crushed it this week. I've just put in 80 hours or whatever amount of time this week. And you're sitting there and you're like, now can we make it to next week? Now can we make it the week after that?
Yeah.
And when you live in this life of you think that it's all just gonna come easy to you, it makes you really depressed.
Yeah.
Because you think
social media is a lie, because you think you can make all this money on social media, and then all these people make these nonsense videos about how you can put out a Canva template and make $10,000 a week. Like, that's bullshit.
And so like, we could listen, we're comfortable, like I said, like Christina said, but the fact is like, we could be really comfortable if we just were like, okay, we're just gonna have one ketamine clinic, and that's all we're gonna do, and then we just
invest in social media,
and then we started just paying ourselves like crazy, like and not doing all of the other things that are building our organization. And so it's like, listen, like, do I go out and blow my money on like, $150,000 car right now? Or do I sit here and pump it all back into the company and then build $1 billion organization? And listen, I got some crap through like the grapevine or whatever, right? Because I told somebody, I was like, listen, man, like, I'm doing this the way that I'm doing it because I'm going to build $1 billion company, and it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar company at the end of the day. But see, listen, I'm not talking about it from like a monetary standpoint when I say that. I'm using a dollar sign, but the fact is like, I'm actually just talking about the size of that the organization is going to be, because we have big dreams. We didn't just set out to start one small clinic in Southwest Florida. That was the beginning of it, but we are manifesting a healing organism that's going to help transform humanity to a higher state of consciousness and heal the world.
And you can't do that with no money.
No.
money is energy.
Money is energy, man. And so like, we took a meeting with a guy the other day who we're going to have on the show coming up soon. And like, he's super lit and had an awakening. And he's just like, we're getting ready to do like, a little deal together. And he's like, listen, he's like, I want to do this for free for you guys, but I got to charge you. And he's like, and it's like, I'm not going to charge you a bunch, but it's just an energy exchange. It's just an energy exchange. And like, really, like, I want to talk about how within the spiritual community, how like, if you dress like, listen, if I'm not wearing whites and beads and a headdress or whatever, but no, I am going to talk about it, because see, listen, so if I show up and I'm wearing like loafers or whatever and nice clothes or whatever, all of a sudden I'm not spiritual, and then all of a sudden I'm about the money, right? But here's the thing though. I actually think that that's the program. I think within the spiritual community that people thinking that you need to be broke in order to be spiritual is a part of the program. And it was probably part of the program that was put into place by a bunch of people that got together and put that narrative down so people within the spiritual community couldn't get enough money put together to actually make a tangible difference in the world. It's like, oh, all of a sudden, oh, listen, I'm so spiritual. I gave away all of my stuff and I'm broke. And it's like, well, then what are you going to do, man? No, listen, man, I'm going to become a billionaire because I'm going to use my money as a conscious capitalist and make a real impact in the world. So it's like money isn't evil. The way that you look at money and what you the worth that you put into money for what it really means and represents might be evil. It's like, am I going to take all of my money and blow it on Lambos and yachts and all of this stuff or whatever, and not actually utilize it for the betterment of humanity? Well, that might be evil. But if I'm a billionaire and I start taking my money and I start putting people through psychedelic therapy for free continuously and building organizations that are going to give people clean water and building organic farms and stuff like that, it's like that stuff takes money, man. That's not evil. That's genuine. That's beautiful. That's pure. That's good.
It's Gandhi, right? Gandhi was. I'm pretty sure Gandhi was he was a one of these spiritual gurus was a prince, and then he left the king, he left his basically cushy lifestyle to go be a monk and go. Do you know this story, or am I talking to him? Can you look that up? We have time. I'll cut it, but I want to make sure that I get this right. I'm pretty sure it's Gandhi. Gandhi was more recent, though. It definitely wasn't Gandhi. Like, wasn't Gandhi in like the 19?
Gandhi might be right.
Like more recently. This is not that.
It?
Anyways,
No.
there was a spiritual. I love what you're talking about in the fact that like there's this vilification of capitalists who pursue what you're pursuing, because there is this misnomer that in order to be philanthropic,
Siddhara Gautama. I don't know.
Probably not, because
that did not ring a bell.
Gautama was convinced that
there's a guy. The story goes he basically was in this.
he renounced his princely title
That's
to
exactly
become a
what it
monk,
was.
depriving himself of worldly possessions.
So that is the narrative on, okay, wealth is bad, go away from wealth. But that spiritual guru in this specific case, do you think he would have had the perspective?
Buddha.
That's what it was. Okay, we're gonna in post edit. None of that just happened. We're jumping into it right now. So Buddha just so happened to grow up in a very wealthy. He was a prince, and then all he did was left all of his worldly possessions, left everything, went out and was a monk, and he celebrated to do that. And again, if you're in that position and you basically choose poverty in the name of spirituality, it's a great thing. Not putting anything against that, but that has created a narrative, which we're talking about right now, that makes what you're doing, because you're not chasing wealth, but you're chasing resources to be able to provide service to more people. Now all of a sudden you're a bad guy, which doesn't make sense to me.
Well, so I think that like in that situation, maybe coming from that place of having everything like that and then needing to learn the lesson that that's not what's really important in life might have been valid for that aspect. The truth is, though, is like, so listen, Jesus was a carpenter, right? Jesus wasn't balling out by any means. Imagine if he was. Imagine if he was, though.
And he had Instagram.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But like, seriously, like imagine what kind of reach that he, and listen, so like it had a profound change and effect on humanity, and we're still talking about it today, which is fantastic. But like, now imagine Jesus being a billionaire, what he could have accomplished. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's the perspective that I'm putting onto it. It's like, you can still be like Christ and have those kind of morals and what you believe and what you're going to do for the world, but having the monetary status to really make that impact is not an evil thing in my eyes.
I had this debate with one of my buddies, which was like, he was trying to tell me that like, there was an example of, you have a guy in California who lives in a shack, who loves the environment, like to the point where he wakes up every day and he's picking up trash on the beach in Santa Monica, and just every day that's his life, and he is dedicating his life to, I'm going to clean up the ocean. Like that's his life, and he wakes up every single day and does that. And we were having this debate between him and there's a guy out in Florida who lives on a nature preserve in a multi-million-dollar house, who one day wakes up and goes, you know what? The environment means something to me, so I'm going to put a lot of money behind this environmental initiative, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and there's going to be 100,000 liters of trash picked up in the Everglades over the next 2 years, right? I'm not trying to rank who's better than who in this situation, but who can make a greater impact?
It's all about the impact. See, that's what we're talking about here.
But I think that's why, though, people don't recycle and do that, because they just think to themselves, I'm one person. What is my input going to do if I recycle this? It's not going to change everything. But if I'm one person and you're one person and you're one person and you're one person, and we all start to do it, what kind of impact could that be? So you can't just think of yourself as my little thing that I'm trying to do isn't going to help. It is going to help. And if everybody else starts to help, then that's when you really start to make the impact.
And it's not do as I say, it's do as I do, right? So it's like you have to lead by example at the end of the day. Listen, like, you know, that one guy who's doing it solo will probably end up teaming up with the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was just
Because
about to
he
say.
attracted that into his life by the laws of attraction and manifestation. But if he wouldn't have been embodying it and walking that walk himself, then he wouldn't have been in alignment with the other guy. It's like, listen, man, I have a network of some really amazing people, and I'm just like, you know, that have serious pools of capital, and I'm not asking them for any of it. I haven't asked anybody for any capital like that. That's not what I'm doing. But I also can like kind of take a bird's eye view into the future with the surroundings that I have right now. And I know that when the time is right and that the ability to make that serious impact is there, I wouldn't be surprised if those people all came in and were like, all right, let's change the world. But the thing is, though, is like, if I wasn't out here doing things, or if we weren't out here doing things from the genuine place that we're doing, and it was all about the money, I don't think any of those people would probably be down to do it. Because see, one thing I've noticed about really wealthy people now is when it's about money, they don't want anything to do with it anymore. And see, and it's like, and they don't want to help you get rich either. That's not what they're there for. What they're there to do is make an impact and help heal the world or do whatever they're doing. So it's all about the legacy and the impact at that point.
I have this idea that if you are in a service-based business, which I think myself on this definitely a service business, and same here. If you're in it for the money, you will quit. You will 100.
We're seeing that right now in the ketamine industry. There's ketamine clinics closing their doors left and right because it's the beginning of an industry. It's the infancy.
People are failing. And listen, I heard that after MDMA got outvoted the other day, that like psychedelic stocks were tanking and stuff like that. And so like, but see, here's the thing though. You ready for this? I look at this as like the tests of the universe, okay? Wouldn't it be funny if like this was a big wave of what the universe was using to do to wash out all the people that didn't have pure intentions? You know what I'm saying? It's like, listen, man, if we weren't in this for the genuine reasons that we're in it of helping people, we would have quit a long time ago. There's no way we would have went through all of the stuff that we've went through. We would have just thrown our hands up and been like, this is nuts.
Right when somebody drove into...
I keep saying that we're people helping people.
People helping people. Yeah, and back, yes, right when somebody drove their G-Wagon through the side of our building, or when COVID hit. Like,
can you tell that story?
So we we do our first treatment out of our clinic, and then a week later, the lockdown happens. A week after we do our first treatment, the lockdown happens. And we were just like, and I'm like, it's just a test. I'm like, this is just to see if we're gonna quit, like, just keep going, just keep helping people. And so we stayed positive. And since we were an essential business because we're a medical company, we actually were allowed to stay open and keep on working. And then so we stay positive and we keep on going, and like nobody can even leave their houses, and we're going to work every day. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks after that, one of our clients who is doing physical therapy out of the clinic at that time, who had a stroke years ago, gets into his car and all of a sudden drives his G-Wagon straight through the side of our building. Like, and his car was in the building.
I
And
have
so,
pictures. We can throw it into the
It's already
I have
being
video
overlaid right now. It's already.
being like pulled out by the tow truck.
and so it's like,
The car did not have a scratch on it. I commend that car. If you're looking for a car that is not probably going to get injured in a car accident, I
Yeah.
would buy a Mercedes G-Wagon.
yeah, for sure. But like, so within a month period, you're talking about the lockdown and a G-Wagon flying through the side of your building. Most people would have been like, you know what? I'm done. Like, this, obviously we're not supposed to do this or whatever, but it's like, that's not how I looked at it. I was just like, this, I'm a big believer of when you're manifesting, or when, and Steve Harvey talks about this. It's like you put a manifestation out into the universe. You got the polarity, mentalism. You're putting it out into the universe. And so now God or the universe gift wraps this manifestation, and it starts coming your way. But now it's spiritual boot camp time. It's like, how many hoops do you have to jump through now in order to evolve into the individual that you need to become to actually obtain the manifestation? See, listen, like, I don't hope that my dreams are going to come true. I know they're coming true. I just know that I needed to get my ass kicked through the process of it all in order, a lot, like really badly, but I'm actually at the point now where, and I was through a lot of the journey where it's like, thank you for showing me how strong I am. Like, I'm getting ripped in half, and I'm just like, boy, God, you know what? You must have some big plans for me, because if I'm getting trained like this to be shown how much I can endure and how powerful I am, and that I'm just never going to give up no matter what, then this is going to be bigger than I could probably ever imagine.
That I heard something the other day. It was like, when a lot of people love to use something like having somebody drive a G-Wagon through your facility as the reason why
Cop
not.
out.
Yeah, it's a cop out. But somebody framed this to me, and it's changed the way that I think about things. It said, when it gets hard, lean in. Because that's where the people fall off like flies. And it's real. We're in a world now where things are made so easy for 99.9% of the population. Like DoorDash, you don't have to leave your house now to get groceries. All these different systems that put around us as humans to make things easier for us. Now we look at resistance, we look at hard times, we look at struggles as a negative thing. But once I started looking at it as, oh, if I can endure this, I know that there's 5, 10, 20, 30,000 people that fell off because something like this happened to
There's
them.
a quote that says, if you knew that you only had to go through 100 or whatever the number is, bad things, and if you knew at the 101st bad thing that it was going to change, would you go through all of those things?
It's Dave Metzer. Dave Metzer says, what if I told you had to have 50 no's before your yes? He's like, you would start loving the no's.
Wouldn't you?
You would start loving the no's. Every single time you got another one, you'd be like, yes.
Yeah, give it to me.
Thank you for that no, because I'm one no closer to the yes. And so it's like, gosh, who's the Justin guy that's with Tate all the time?
Waller.
Justin Waller. He's basically just like, you keep showing up every day, and I'm getting a little bit better. And he's like, I'm not getting the results, but every day I'm getting a little bit better. And he's like, and after consistently showing up like that over and over and over again, one day I'm going to be good enough to get that big yes.
that leads me right into the conversation about, people going through mental, physical challenges. We're talking about it from an entrepreneurial perspective. That same thing can be applied to somebody trying to get their health back in order, get their mental health back in order. How many actions, how many hard days where nothing shows, where you look in the mirror and you're either the same weight on you're the same weight on the scale, you look the same in the mirror, all these things, the days and the weeks and the months that you have to put in to see just a little bit of change in your life. How do you walk people through that?
Listen, it's like the same mentality, man. Like, listen, like you're fighting for your life at the end of the day. You're fighting for your mental health so you can do the entrepreneurial things or doing all of that. But like without that aspect of it, everything else is screwed. And so like we had a guy come into our office the other day who I'm actually friends with. And he was just like, man, you've got it. Like, look, man, I just want to be like you, bro. Like,
Poor
look
me.
Huh?
Poor me.
And it was just like look at like you look how healthy you are, and you go to the gym and and like you're helping people and everything and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, but I work my ass off, bro. Like, it's not like this just landed in my lap somehow, man. Like,
It's like
I
the
am
thing helps me, and I'm like, dude, it's a mindset.
it's a mindset.
I said, you are stuck. And he's like, look at how healthy you are. And I was like, but do you know who you're not talking to right now? Who you wouldn't know has been through a lot of the same struggles as you and that has health issues? Me. But do you see it on me? No. Because do I let it define me? No.
Listen, man, I weighed myself the other day, okay? And I'm like doing a cut right now, and I'm at 187, 188 pounds. And at my heaviest, I weighed 285. All right. So I'm like 100 pounds less of a man than I used to be. And like that didn't happen by me just stumbling onto a treadmill and like, like just kind of half-assing my workouts and stuff like that. The truth is that like I'm a savage, bro. I am a savage. And every single day I get up and I fight for my mental health, and I fight through yesterday was like one of the first days in a long time that I didn't go to the gym that I normally would. And it's literally because I felt like my body was going to fall apart. But like, I'm like Goggins, man. Like, maybe not like with the ability of what he's doing, but like mentally savage like that, where, listen, man, like, during the lockdown from COVID, one of my biggest complaints and things that I was upset about was that the gym was closed.
Yeah.
Like I was just like,
God, it was awful.
and so like I'm just like running around in circles outside with weights and doing push-ups on the sidewalk and everything and stuff like that. It's like I didn't slow down for anything or anybody, because listen, man, you got to look at things like this. Is it doom and gloom? Like, oh my gosh, this could be the end of everything, so I'm just going to kick my feet up and I'm going to stop and I'm not going to do anything with myself? Or am I a warrior and I'm going to fight until the day I die, no matter what? And that's the kind of mentality not only do you have to have in entrepreneurship, but you have to have that with your mental health too. It's like, listen, like, there are some days when I still feel a little bit depressed sometimes, or I have some anxiety or whatever. But like, I use the tools in my toolbox now to effectively go after those things. I go to the gym, I sit in the sauna, I meditate, I'll do some breath work, all of those things. And like, I actually know that when I go through those things now and I'm uncomfortable and I'm doing that in a completely sober state, and that's really painful to go through sometimes, because I know what kind of relief it gives you to get high or do whatever it is and stuff like that. I know I'm really growing. I'm really enduring the suck. I feel it, man. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, this is really painful, but I'm growing so much right now. And so that's another thing in an aspect of what Christina and I do, is like, we have to be the embodiment of healthy living and mental health and all of that, because that's what we do for the company. And that's like, we're pouring out of our cup constantly into other people's cups. but it doesn't mean that every single day is roses and rainbows
Mhm.
for us, man. It's just that we just don't give up and we don't stop and we just keep moving forward.
You
And
pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you keep going forward, putting one foot in front of the other.
yeah, and
And I
that's
think that's where people get stuck.
it's a level of discipline. Mike Tyson talks about it. Discipline is doing what you hate and that you don't want to do like you love it.
Mm.
With a smile on your face.
It was a conversation I was having when I was doing my race with this guy. He was like 70 years old and he's doing a 50K with 12,
Wow.
like one of the hardest races that you could possibly do in the United States. And he's 70 years old. And I'm having this enlightening conversation with him. And I think we live in a world where people are afraid of everything now, like
Mhm.
just afraid of everything. And I'm not joking. When you go on a race like we were on, it's like 1,000 ways to die. You're looking over your left and there's a cliff, and all of a sudden there's a thunderstorm rolling in, and there's lightning striking. And when you're on a mountain, lightning likes to find its shortest way to the ground. So, you know, if you're 8,000 feet in the air, chances are you are the closest thing to the ground. But I was having this conversation. I was like, why are you doing this? Like, you could do anything right now, and you're choosing to spend your Saturday. And he goes, I hope I die out here. And I was like, it scared me for a minute, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't know. He goes, I would rather die here than be on my deathbed thinking about all the things I wish I could have. And I was like, damn. So in your hardest moment at 70 years old, you're still like, you could take it away from me right now. You could take my life away from me. I am exactly where I want to be right now. And it's in this push. It's in this full on, like, pedal to the metal, all gas, no brakes. I'd be interested to get your guys' perspective when things do get a little easy, when things do get a little comfortable. Do you guys get a little bit of angst? Are you so used to the hard and the grind that you're like, don't mind it once in a while?
Don't ask me, it hasn't happened yet. We can revisit that.
You know, like, I don't know.
No, it got a little, I don't know. I felt like it maybe a few weeks ago it did. And it was kind of nice to just chill. There's always lulls. But then it gets a little bit scary. Like, is it summertime? Is business going to come in the door? What's going on? Do we need to cut our hours? But then, like, that happened. That was for a week. And now it's super busy again.
Like,
So
crazy busy.
I feel like you just get a time to maybe just decompress a little bit, even though that decompression can feel really scary because there's not a lot going on. But then all of a sudden, it's like an explosion of busyness again, and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off in an organized manner.
I think that I'm a big believer in, like, whether you want to call it God or the universe, I think it only gives you as much as you can endure. And so it's like, I'll get to the point where I'm literally about to fall apart. And then all of a sudden there'll be like a calm for a second.
He told me he wanted a vacation today, so I am real excited. I'm hoping
Let's
that
go.
feeling lasts.
Come on, Charles. Let's do it.
I wish I
Come
had
on.
it on camera.
We'll see. We'll see.
And now the camera's on. It's like, we'll see. We're not sure about that.
Well, you know, listen, like, I mean, like, her idea of a vacation and what I'm capable of doing are two completely different things. Like, I'm like, okay, we could go to Miami and stay for, like, in a hotel for a couple of days and then come back and go straight back to work. And she's like, I needed 2 weeks off. I need a week off, and we needed to go
A
like,
week. I
yeah,
don't need
a
2
week.
weeks.
That's
7 days.
7 days.
Well, it's stupid. Like, if we're going to drive somewhere, we're going to spend all day in the car that first day, chill for a day, and then drive back home. That doesn't do any good. You need at least 5 days.
You know what it is, actually, though? We are at the point now where we do have a solid and enough team where I actually feel comfortable doing stuff. I would feel comfortable doing something like that. You know what it is, man? Like, I am a savage with it. And so it's like, I don't feel like, even though I know I deserve one, I don't feel like I deserve, because I just feel like I need to accomplish all of my goals. See, and you know what the truth is like, I love my life. Like, I love what we do. I love helping people. Do I push myself way too hard? Yeah, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And the thing is that I think that that's what you have to be able to do, though, is push yourself to those limits and be okay with it, because I've really yet to meet like an uber successful entrepreneur that I respect and admire and would like to live the kind of life that they're living, that doesn't have that same kind of mentality, man.
You are either have the expectation that something that you deserve something that you don't, or you don't have that expectation and you really, I mean, at least from my mindset, it's like even when something does come my way, it's not a, oh, I'm doing something right. It's like, oh, this is my sign that I have to double down 3 times harder. And speaking on the vacation thing, I think we started the company like 3 years ago. In November of last year, I went on my first vacation. And it was day 1, we went to Colorado. And my body, because now I'm like, Ryan's telling me, don't do any work. We're basically not allowed to. I've had Ryan and Jace on the phone with me going, Jamie, you're done. Go away.
See, that doesn't happen for us. We're constantly, even when we're on vacation, we're on Zoom calls,
But
we're
this
on
is
phone calls. It's not really a vacation.
This is exactly
working from Miami. Like
Yep.
it's not anything different. We're just not in the clinic.
Part of my vacation is her yelling at me to get off my phone. Put your phone down, Charles.
That's so we got there and I was like on a morning meeting with these guys and I'm like on the phone pacing up and down the street, and I have it written in my journal. Day 1 was the hardest day ever because I had all this energy that I'm used to just pouring into everything that couldn't go anywhere. And like, Jordan's yelling at me, get off your phone, disconnect. It took 48 hours for literally my body to feel this immediate like, and then I released, and it was like 5-day vacation. So by day 3, I was releasing. By day 4, I was like super relaxed. And then by day 5, I was on the plane back. But on that 5th day, incredible anxiety. Because when like being in the position that we're in, it's like when you take those couple of days off,
It's kind of hard to get back. I get it.
But the momentum is
It
really
is.
hard.
The momentum is really hard.
Really hard.
Because you'll get into a flow, and then all of a sudden the 4 or 5 days are over, and you're like, all right, now what do I got to make up for? Like, what do I have to take? What did I miss that I have to go back and circle back on and take care of and stuff like that? And so it's like, I don't like completely shutting down everything because then I feel like everything starts piling up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, it's harder to go back and have to start shoveling from that massive pile. Whereas if you do a little bit every day while you're kind of like on vacation or whatever.
Kind of on a vacation is the key phrase there.
I love that.
Listen, so like the laws of attraction, and from a lot of like amazing people that I know that have used it, all talk about it takes 5 years to manifest your dreams. 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. And I've basically been with the mentality of like, after 5 years, I can take a breath. Okay.
Wow.
And so like, I've been working, 100+ hours a week for the last 4.5 years. And like, I'm almost at 5 years. And I'm sure that things are going to be amazing at 5 years. And if they're not, that's cool too. They already are pretty amazing. But the fact is that I also went into this with the mentality of, I used to listen to Elon Musk speaking, and when I'd be driving around in my car about 4 years ago. And basically this one speech that he gave resonated so hard with me, and I never forgot it, was that if I work 100 hours a week, even if we're just as good as each other, I'm going to accomplish what you would do working 40 hours a week in like, a fraction of the time, man. And so I figured if it takes people like 5 years to manifest their dreams, and that's working 40 hours a week, and if I work 5 years at 100 hours a week, boy, won't we be in a good place by the end of that.
But isn't it funny how no matter what we expect once we get to, because I guarantee if you would have sat down with you 4 years ago and was like, look at what we're doing, like you laid it all out for them, that person would have been stoked. But this person here right now has already moved the goalposts like 10 years down the line, where it's like
conversation the other day.
This is such an interesting conversation because I have this all the time where I'm like, yeah, if I told 18-year-old me what I'm doing right now for work, he would have been like, there's no way. That's so cool. All this type of stuff. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm trying to impress Jamie at 30. You know what I mean? Jamie at 30, at 24. It's like, it's a hard balance. But how do you guys deal with that?
So there's different levels to this, man. And so it's like 4.5 years ago when we were getting started, all I wanted to do was get a clinic going,
Yeah. And I
you
feel
know?
like you forget.
And then all of a sudden, then I just wanted to get the staff put together so we could run our first treatment and help the first person. And then all of a sudden you start getting while you're leveling up, your network expands. And see, here's the thing, man. It's like what I used to think was really successful isn't very successful. Because once you really start getting around some very successful people, you're like, oh, like $100 million isn't that much money. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's just like, it's not though. I mean, it is to a lot of people, but like when you're trying to build something and you're trying to make a massive impact, like $1 billion isn't that much money. You know, so it really starts putting things into perspective where it's like, oh, if I'm really going to set out and I'm going to change the world like that, I'm going to need like, trillions of dollars at the end of the day.
I worry and interested to get your guys' perspective on it. When the expectations are so unbelievably high that we hold for ourselves and we put in all the hours that we put in, and we're constantly just grinding ourselves into sand and then having to be like, all right, we got to water ourselves a little bit, mold us back together, and then grind ourselves down again. Do we just expect that that's just an unforgiving life in terms of the day-to-day of it? Sometimes it depresses me whenever I feel that way, because I do feel like I have so much more to go, but yet I can lose perspective in the moment of like, man, this was a dream. Sitting here with you guys on a podcast with all these cameras and this beautiful studio and this being my job. If I would have told 18-year-old me, he'd have been like, dude, no way. That's amazing. And if you told Charles from 10 years ago that you're where you're at right now, I can't even fucking imagine the type of conversation that you guys would have. What do you think that conversation would be like?
Dude, the mayor came up to me the other day and shook my hand and thanked me for what we're doing at the clinic. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you'd have told 10-year Charles ago that something like that was going to happen, it would have just probably been a laugh like that. Like there was, or even that we were going to be helping people heal with psychedelics or something like that. And see, here's the thing, man. I think that like, it's not the destination. It's never been the destination, because once you get to the destination, it's over. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's the journey that is where all of the like the good times and the lessons and like everything that happens. And so I think it's okay to keep on continuously wanting to better yourself and evolving and growing a larger organization and stuff like that. But I also think it's really important sometimes to take a look back and see how far you've come, and then be incredibly grateful for where you're at right now, but knowing that you're going to be doing even better things. And I lose perspective on that sometimes. I do. I'm like my biggest critic. I think a lot of us are, especially being entrepreneurs, where it's like, I don't need anybody else to tell me where my shortcomings are. I beat myself up properly all the time. The fact is, though, is like, I actually love Facebook for this reason, because all of a sudden, like, a memory from 4 years ago pops up, and then I look at it and it's like we hadn't done anything yet, and I was just so
It's like
grateful.
even a memory from last year just popped up, and I was like, could you believe this was only last year?
Yeah, we were on
And
Big
how
Mama.
much we grew since that point.
We were on Big Mama's radio show
Yeah.
last year, a year ago, like yesterday or whatever, and she's like, can you believe this was only a year ago, or like this was a year ago? And to be completely honest, it felt like way more than a year ago, man, because we have grown so much since then. And so it's like,
But years go by fast at this speed.
Yeah.
Me and him were talking about it. Ryan came onto the team in July of last year. So we're almost on a full year and it's gone by like this. It feels like 10 years ago, but like in terms of how it feels like it was like a month. Feels like it was 10 years ago, but it felt like the time passed in about a month. But gearing the conversation towards where we're at in the psychedelic therapy space. Obviously, we just saw what happened this week, and we just talked about this with MDMA. Where do you fear? What are your fears with the current industry? Where we're going?
You know, I wouldn't say any fears. I don't really have any fears. I know everything's perfect and everything's going to play itself out the way it's supposed to. I definitely think that here's one thing that I noticed, right? And maybe this is because of my history and my past and me, being a part of selling things that I probably shouldn't have a long time ago and stuff like that. It's funny because like since I have that past, I realize like how much it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, even though like, it was just a part of my story. I feel like a lot of people that are getting into this industry now didn't have a past like mine, and they're like putting this huge glamour on like being almost a legal drug dealer. It's like, oh man, now I can legally just sell mushrooms to everybody, and I'm gonna
Still
start.
illegal to sell mushrooms.
Yeah, in certain places it's not though.
True.
Like in California and stuff like that. You can go to Oakland and you can purchase mushrooms from head shops and stuff like that, or like from other stores. And so there's tons of chocolate bar companies out there, and there's all of these different people that are starting to like mass produce and manufacture psilocybin and MDMA and stuff like that, and starting to sell it to people. And like I think that that's a really bad look for the industry. Or like, listen, man, I was watching an Instagram post the other day, and it was a sponsored ad for some company, and I won't even talk about who it was or whatever. But like the guy that was working the booth was there on a sponsored ad talking into the camera, and he's like, so many people have so many different products here, and people have been feeding me mushroom gummies and chocolates and MDMA gummies all day. And like you could tell he was like twirling on this on this video. And like if you're a professional in the industry where we're trying to break taboos and stigmas associated with these medicines, and you're out in public consuming, psychedelics like that and using it more recreationally and not for therapeutic value, what kind of message are you sending out there to the people? Like, it's like, listen, like we've got to lead by example right now. I can't be out there frivolously taking psychedelics and using it for not therapeutic reasons, because then it's going to make everybody else think it's okay to do that. And that's when bad things happen.
There's the difference between psychedelic recreation and psychedelic therapy is a huge
difference.
Huge difference. And I think people get it mistaken because they want to say, I'm feeling a little, I need to feel connected again. And them and their buddies just go and get a bunch of, mushrooms and go and do it. There's no intention behind it.
Like Fort Myers a few months ago, there was some guy somersaulting down the road naked, and he was on psychedelics. Like it's a bad look. You can't just be like psychedelics for everyone, because that's how it is going to continue to be illegal. If we're not doing things in a responsible manner, nothing's going to change. If nothing changes, nothing changes. This is why it was outlawed and banned in the first place. But like now it's time to change that narrative and do things the responsible way. Like there is a plethora of different mushroom companies that are selling chocolates on Facebook. And the fact that it's just so widely available. I'm experienced with psychedelics, and I accidentally ate too many squares. And I thought I was taking about a gram of mushrooms. And let me tell you, that was not a gram of mushrooms. I walked outside, and Charles was laying out there, and I was on all fours, and the ground was consuming me. And I was like, Charles, I am not okay right now. And he's like, let's go inside. And everything was okay. But I was on a full blast psychedelic journey. It was probably 4, maybe 5 grams of mushrooms that I had actually taken. And if I had not been experienced, that could have been terrifying for me.
Yeah. And so like, that's like, you know, even with like, people microdosing and stuff like that, it's like you think like hopefully you know exactly what you're doing, because you might think you're taking a microdose and it might not be a microdose.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on microdosing? Is that, let me, unexperienced? I have no experience in the microdosing world, but I can just think about it from the perspective of, if I'm a creative guy, like Joe Rogan will talk about, he's a creative guy, starts his day off, he'll start with puffing a J, right? Gets really creative, sits down, starts crushing, jokes or whatever. That's my idea of what microdosing is. But I'm also confused on why because it's like pushed on people like, hey, if you're depressed and your life sucks, just start your day with a
I think it
microdose of
depends
shrooms.
on what your intention is. Is your intention to go and have some creative downloads and do some creative things? Or is your intention to use it like an antidepressant and take it every 3 days and not actually do any real work on yourself? Is it a Band-Aid? Is it a crutch?
So,
Or is it something to enhance your abilities, your creative abilities, your spiritual abilities, whatever?
so Christina just hit the nail on the head, man. And listen, like, I'm a fan of whatever works for people. So I'm not going to completely like crap on anything.
No, I am too. I'm not trying to say
No. That's why I said you hit the nail on the head. But I was making a disclaimer before I say this. Listen, I have a lot of friends in the industry where it's like microdosing is their whole thing. Okay. And I'm supportive of them and I'm supportive of that. Okay. And I'm happy that gave them such good results. The problem with what I see is that it all of a sudden becomes the answer now. See, like when you microdose, it's gonna give you a little bit of symptom relief, but are we really doing the deep work that needs to be done? Okay. So it's like, I'm a fan of macrodosing because that's where you're gonna have psychospiritual experiences and you're gonna get to the root issue and the root problem of why that you have these issues. Okay. And you can process through it and work through it and do shadow work and all of these kind of things. Where it's like, if I think that microdosing is the answer and I'm just taking a microdose, like Christina said, every few days for the rest of my life, that's just another crutch at the end of the day. It's not really gonna, and like, a lot of people need to know this too, is like, psilocybin can be toxic when you take it every day like that. So like there's people like, oh, I take mushrooms every day. And it's like, well, that's not good for you.
That's how you're
Like,
supposed to take
that's
it.
not how you're supposed to do that. And so I think, people need to be very mindful of that. I think that if people are trying to get into a flow state and be more creative and have these kind of inspirational downloads and stuff like that, I think that microdosing could be very beneficial for people. But I think if people have gone through traumatic experience and they have some super underlying issues where they have depression, anxiety, and PTSD, I think a macro dose or a therapeutic dose of a medicine is going to be much more beneficial for them.
But I also think it's a good place to start before you do that. To work yourself up to it.
I think-
Because, macrodose experiences can be
Well, this is
scary.
this is a great conversation. I actually want to have this live on air. That's the conversation that we're having behind the scenes. Obviously, I've not participated in ketamine therapy or anything. I've never done even so much as a microdose of mushrooms. I look at this world of psychedelic therapy. It's funny because we talk about this all day long. So I'm starting to do the inner work on myself. The funny thing that you guys mentioned about ketamine is it reveals things that you didn't even know were a problem, but that like kind of just get brought to your attention. So it was funny. I was just sitting there the other day and talking with my fiance, and I was like, and I just started like digging deeper and like, what are maybe some of these things that like happened to me when I was younger that maybe I'm passing over? But there's a fear from my perspective of where do I start? Because it's not this stuff that we're talking about. Most of it isn't legal. And there's a lot of discourse on it. And there's a lot of people that are sending you here and sending you there. And here, try these chocolates, or here, do this or do that. And it's like, there's so much information. And for me, number one, jumping into the deep end of the pool seems a little scary. It seems a little scary, but also I don't know where to start.
Ketamine. And I'm not just saying that because we have a ketamine clinic, man. Like the truth is like I actually think that even though it's giving people some of the most profound psychedelic experiences that you could imagine, because of the anesthetic qualities of the medicine and it relaxes you so much and it calms you down, that it just kind of lulls you into this dreamlike state. It's very gentle, man. Where like, I don't like personally, a therapeutic dose of psilocybin for me gave me a ton of anxiety.
Hmm.
Does
Okay.
give you anxiety.
And it makes you get this like tightness in your chest and everything and
But then
stuff.
after that subsides, it's beautiful.
Very. But that
But you
being
have to have a really good support system. I mean, like, it just goes back to the whole idea of my self wellness. We're all there to help you and to guide you and to support you on your way. If you don't have that, and to integrate you, if you don't have any of that and you're just sitting in your bedroom and doing these things, you're not going to make the advances and you're not going to optimize your outcomes like we're helping you to do at My Self Wellness.
that's what she just said. And like, here's the thing too, for like, so like when we're talking about other psychedelics out there, even 20 years ago, all right, like I was trip sitting people. Okay. Like I knew how important it was when you took psychedelics like that in a bigger therapeutic dose or whatever, to have somebody that was there, that was coherent, that could look after you and take care of you. Like, I think that that's a big part of the narrative that's being overlooked right now, is that everybody's like, oh, psychedelics, ooh, psilocybin, ooh, LSD, oh, all of this stuff. And people are promoting it like everybody should take that. It's like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but I think that they should be doing it with somebody looking after them that's sober to make sure that they're okay.
Inexperienced, because can I tell a story about did I die?
Oh,
So
only
So-
the PG version.
yeah. So
The PG version.
So if you don't
talking-
have somebody that is experienced, what we know from firsthand experience is that Charles, this was before we really started the clinic and everything like that. Like I had no experience trip sitting somebody. And this was like in the really early days. And Charles was on a substance and he thought he died. And I was spiteful because I didn't think he should be smoking weed. And he had smoked some weed during the middle of this experience. And he's like, oh man, did I die? Did the weed kill me? And I was like, yeah, the weed killed you. And I didn't think it was going to do anything, but it turned him into this like awful loop where he thought he died. And so
I was
think about having that
tripping hard.
person with you. Like if you don't have somebody that is experienced and that can't truly guide you through this type of a psychedelic experience, it can be really harmful to you.
She didn't want me smoking weed back then, and I was still dabbling, and I was in the peak state of a psychedelic experience, and I took a big hit of cannabis, and all of the sudden it sent me on this really negative spiral, and in my trip I died because I was in a breakthrough peak experience. And I'm like, oh my God, I died, and I'm freaking out. And then all of a sudden she comes up to me and she gets her face right in mine. And I looked at her and I'm like, did I die? Or no, I go, the weed killed me, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, yeah, it did. And then,
A lot since then.
she was not an experienced trip sitter. Therefore, nobody would have probably said that to somebody in the peak state of a psychedelic experience where...
No, he was in the peak state though. Thought he was done. He was so coherent.
And so for the next, who knows how long, I thought I was dead. And it was not pretty.
That is
Not pretty, man.
But this comes back, tying it back all together. This is why recreational use is so sketchy, because I've watched movies on Netflix where people, I think it was Ben Stiller, who went through a psychedelic experience and was like, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me because he was inexperienced, did it with a group of inexperienced people. The thing that I think about a lot is the energy of people. And one of the things that's prohibited me from doing it recreationally is I don't want to do it. I've heard people have experience with low vibrating people around them, bad trip
Yeah.
sitters or people that are going on their own trips and they got a lot of baggage that they're about to go through. And you're in this environment that can get very hostile or very dark. And if you're around that, it's just like you're kind of susceptible to getting pulled into that darkness. That was one of my biggest fears and why I'm excited about what you guys do, because it's really putting guardrails and making sure that people that want to go down this route, that want to heal themselves through psychedelic medicine, are not alone and are not going on 15 bad trips before they get their first good one.
No.
Yeah, and that's why too the people who are administering the medicine at the clinic that are trip sitting you, everyone are very high vibrational people. Everybody around you is just light, and so it helps you to heal it. It is part of the whole healing experience. We've seen it where we've brought in the wrong person because we didn't see the lie in them yet, and we saw the effect that it had. But like everybody is just so solid, and it's so important to keep your vibration high the whole entire time, because as soon as you go, you can see it. It affects everything around us.
Well, it's, I mean, I'd imagine, during that experience, are you able to get more energetic reads on people?
So it's so crazy to the point where like the person serving you the medicine has to be a high vibrational
Yeah.
person, because the medicine takes on the vibration of the person that's giving it to you. All right. So like literally, like, who are you getting this from? What's their intention? Are they giving it to you with the intention to heal, or are they just serving you something that they would think is drugs? I mean, it's like that's an energetic communion there. And I have seen low vibrational people with the wrong intentions serve people medicine, and it went horribly wrong. And so it's like literally like, listen, man, not to be religious, because I'm not, but like this is a sacrament, man.
Mm.
Like you need to look at this like this is a holy sacrament. It's a medicine, and it's going to give somebody, most likely at the right dose, a religious experience or a spiritual experience. And so like, know who you're getting this from, know what their intention is, have somebody that's putting all of their loving, healing energy on you while you're under this medicine, and not taking it recreationally. Because like I've been out at parties, you know, a long time ago where I was using psychedelics recreationally, and I had some really close calls, man. Really close calls.
Well, again, we tied it together today, but I think that's for the people that are listening, for the viewers and the people that are interested, whether they've been to the facility already or they're just genuinely, they found this just through genuine interest through psychedelic therapy. Who you work with matters, where you start matters, the journey that you go on matters, and it really is people dependent. So if you guys had something for somebody who wanted to dabble, who's a little bit, thinking about taking that first step, give them your kind of message.
Come to My Self Wellness, where we'll take care of you, and everybody's vibrating on a higher frequency.
And more people helping people.
And we really care. It's our purpose to do what we're doing. It's our purpose to help people heal. And out of like 11,000 treatments that we've done, I can only give you about 4 or 5 scenarios where people were uncomfortable on the medicine. But you're with a bunch of people that know how to look after you and take care of you and make sure you're okay.